Welcome to this latest edition, Black Hole Podcast. Today's going to be short and sweet, or short, not sweet, depending on how you look at it. I'm going to touch on this affirmative action ruling, Supreme Court. Most of us, we've never benefited from affirmative action, regardless of what how do I even describe these people? The people that, in their minds, Black African Americans, they get everything. There's this massive amount of affirmative action in the workplace and education everywhere, and we're getting all these benefits, we're getting all this, we're getting all that because we're Black, because we're African American. That's not the case. I don't got the stats on it, but how many African Americans are getting led into these prestigious places based solely on their ethnic background? You know, how many? A minority of a minority of a minority. The greater overall African American experience does not include going to these kind of colleges, does not include receiving affirmative action. You know, to me, those colleges, if they wanted to include it part of it, go ahead. You know, I don't think it's part of the interview process. I mean, they're going to look at whether they state it or not. They're going to look at your background. They're going to look at everything. You know, just like you come in there, you might have mediocre grades, or you're from a good so-called connected family or something. You're white, this, that. Yeah, you're going to get in over someone that had a higher test score. You see, I know the Asians big gripe about it. They think it's like sports, where automatically the highest score, video games, like the highest score wins. No, it's never like that. Never like that. You know, it came out connections and who they wanted in there. That's how it always been, who they wanted in there, right? So whether they want to base on this, that, or whatever, you know, go ahead. But I say this. You've been shown what these so-called political leaders are actually going to do once the rubber hits the road, once things, even if it's a minute percentage of African Americans benefit from it, things that affect African Americans, once they are in power, what will they do to actually protect the interests of African Americans? Nothing, right? Nothing. I'm not for affirmative action. You know, I'm like, affirmative action's over, so what? I don't care. It never benefited me. What did it do for me? It did nothing for me. You know, it did jack for me. I'm like, so what? You know, I don't want nothing from them. I don't want a reparation. I don't want no affirmative action. I do want one thing: get out of my way. Leave me alone. Get away from me. Leave me the hell alone. That's all I want. Get out of my way. I'll make my own path in this world, and I'm gonna be all right. And I don't vote off of race issues, and I don't vote Democrat. Okay. I'll vote independent or something else, you know. But these people, this is what you got, right? You got these Biden and Cohen for 4 years. They haven't done nothing to protect the interests of African Americans. They've done nothing to do that. And people believing they actually would. Student loan forgiveness is another one too. That's another one too. Student loan forgiveness. They did nothing to protect that. Nothing. They weren't serious about passing it. You know, that affects more people, African Americans, than affirmative action does, actually. You know, affirmative action got the big headlines, but really, student loan forgiveness not going through, that affects African Americans more than anything. And I think the political will wasn't there to do it. They made the promises, and they weren't going to do it, right? So affirmative action, so what? You know, that affects so few people. Me, I don't think did it really exist anyway? I don't know. Were they really getting people that are so unqualified, and only qualification they had was their right color? These people were just completely unqualified. I don't think so. I think there's people that fell within the guidelines of being qualified. Maybe they didn't have the highest score, but who cares? So what? Anyway, I know a lot of people. Some people are happy about this. Remember this about the people now. Remember about the people. Anybody celebrating, regardless whether you believe in it or not, or if you agree with affirmative action or not, anybody celebrating what looks to be a L for the black community, another loss for the black community, anyone celebrating this, remember who they are. Remember who's celebrating this. Just remember. Remember who's doing it, right? And you got to make sure in the future, you never back these people. You never support these people. And when misfortune comes their way, as it will, misfortune comes everyone's way, you don't give them a helping hand. You don't give them a helping hand because they show what they really think about you. There's a lot of conservatives, a lot of whites, a lot of Asians out there that are really happy about this. You know, not all, but remember who they are. And sometimes you can't actually punish the individual. You can't do that always. But so sometimes you got to sanction the whole group when it comes to stuff like that. Sorry, you can't just pick and choose. I would say, hey, be more careful who you spend your dollars with. Be more careful who you're letting into your circles. Be more careful whose words you believe. Be more careful whose campaigns you potentially support. That goes for left, right, whatever. Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind right there. Because as someone I voted Republican in the past. I have. Yeah, seeing them so gleeful about affirmative action being dismissed, even though I'm not a fan of affirmative action, it lets me know, like, I've got to make next time around, even less like I'm going to vote for him, even less likely. Now, maybe the Democrats throw out a good contender. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm looking for independent, but we'll see what happens. But the Republicans, you see how they celebrate. Them are allies over this. Remember that. Remember that. Remember the Democrats letting you down by not protecting what could be in your interest or perceived as being in your interest. Remember that. Remember that. Remember anyone that is getting joy from this, thinking they might benefit in the future. Remember that. Any organization that actually changes their policies now to exclude more African Americans, remember that too. Remember that. And if one day they ever do call upon you for anything, do not answer the call. That's it for today.